All right, good evening, everybody. We're going to go ahead and get started here with a quick video from our championship tournament this year, just to give you a flavor of what Adventist Robotics is about. This is the first LEGO League Challenge getting started. So thank you for joining us. If you have questions along the way, please feel free to unmute your mics. And hopefully all of our volume and everything will be working here. Actually, let me just stop sharing and reshare just to double check and make sure all my audio. That's it. I didn't have my audio turned on. So just to make sure my audio settings are there, and we'll get started. All right. Adventist Robotics is a ministry of the Florida Conference Office of Education. This is our 20th year. We had a lot of fun at our championship tournament. It was a week and a half ago. It seems like it was just yesterday. But we had a lot of fun there. That was just a little bit of a recap video of that is available on our YouTube channel. You're welcome to check that out and share that as you wish. We'll have some other videos coming out as well, but just to kind of give you the exciting energy of that. So we partner with an organization called FIRST, which stands for Inspiration and Recognition of Science and Technology. And this organization provides these robotics tournaments, and it's a real privilege to do it. We have First LEGO League Challenge, which is what we're talking about here, which is grades 4 through 8 is the target for that. There is First LEGO League Discover for pre-K through fourth grade, and First LEGO League Explore for grades 2 through 4. Then on the other side of that is First Tech Challenge, which is a high school program, and that program is for grades 7 through 12, so junior high and high school. So that's the various programs that we have that we partner with FIRST with. And there's thousands of teams around the world in all of these programs. So it is an exciting thing. So if you've had a chance to check out our website, a couple things that we will note on here. If you take a look at the calendar, this shows the different tournaments that we have coming up in the different areas. For First LEGO League, we have 10 qualifying tournaments around the country. And these are the 10, some of these dates might change a little bit for next year, but we're fairly certain of most of these dates. We're looking at a couple location changes possibly. We have Colorado, Mid-Atlantic, which will be the DC, Baltimore area, somewhere in that vicinity. North Pacific, Auburn, Washington, Silicon Valley, which is San Francisco, Southern California, Ohio, Texas, Arkansas, Florida, and North Carolina. So these are organizations. In order for this to happen, there's organizations that step up to the plate and willing to put in the work and manage one of these tournaments. So it's really exciting to do that. And then we have our championship Florida here in Florida, which will be on May 4 next year. So those are the dates of the various ones coming around the country, and we're super excited to have that. We're going to go ahead and go back to the homepage and talk just a little bit about what you need to get started. So if you come here and come into First LEGO League, there is a course here on getting started. If you want to take that will cover a lot of the same material we're talking about here. If you click in here, here's the basics you need. So one of the questions we have is, what does it cost to get started? It's not that much money. Of course, it is some money. There is a team registration for the first year, and this includes the cost of 10 students and includes a challenge set. And we'll talk about what a challenge set is in a little bit. There's event registration. You need a robot. So that's the Spike Prime with the expansion set. This is what the Spike Prime robot looks like. That's the cost of that. The good news about this is when you purchase this, you can reuse that year after year. You need a robotics table. You probably saw the tables that all these fields and everything was set on in those pictures. And then sometimes there's team T-shirts you have and other expenses. So for about $1,300 the first year and $600 or $700 every year after that, you can have a team. And a lot of teams, a lot of areas, they'll find sponsorships for it and get started with that. So those are the basics of what you need. And then we'll talk about what the challenge set is and what you need to get started there. So let me actually just jump back to this video because this will have a great picture here of the challenge set. So these are the tables. This is basically a 4x8 sheet of plywood with 2x3s around the outside edge. Very simple to make. Paint them flat black and you're good to go. On this lays a mat. This mat is part of the challenge set. The mat and all the Lego pieces on here are part of the challenge set. So when you order your challenge set and it comes in this big long box. You unroll the mat and you build. There's instructions how to build each one of the mission models, and they're placed on the mat. There's a product called Dual Lock that it's kind of like a fancy Velcro that you stick it in place so that they don't move if they're not supposed to move. And then your robot has to start and work autonomously to accomplish missions out on the field. So we'll talk about that just a little bit as we get into it, but that's essentially what that is. So that's the robot game. Let me jump also. So when you get this challenge set, not only are you going to get the field, the mat, I should say, and all the mission models to put together, but you're going to get a few other products as well. So you're going to get 3 different notebooks. One of the notebooks is this. It's called the engineering notebook. And this engineering notebook, you'll get a couple of these. These are for your students, and it talks about the different parts of FIRST from the student perspective. You'll also have it as well. This first page here is really an important page. FIRST has core values that are very important to it. And it's really cool because as Christians, this follows a lot of what we believe as Christians and how we should relate to our world. But then this little circle here is really important. So the robot game that you saw in the video is this portion. That's a quarter of it. Then there's a quarter for robot design, a quarter for innovation project, and a quarter for the core values. And each one of these is evaluated independently. And overall, the Champions Award, the top award, is a team that does well in all of those areas, that comes to the top and works in all of those. And we'll talk just a little bit about each one of those, and we can get into more detail as we get going. But I just want to give you a glimpse of this notebook. One of the things they have every year we talked about is this innovation project. Every year there's a different theme. So this last year was on art and STEAM is art-infused technology. So this mission here was, how can you use technology in the arts to help engage others or increase participation in what you love to do? So you can do anything you want related to that. It's kind of a little bit wide open. Sometimes it's a challenge to narrow it down. We'll talk about that project a little bit later. some more, but basically with this, you identify a problem, design a solution, and share that solution with others, and then iterate or improve on it as you go through, as you work with it. So that's that. There's a robot game itself and how you design your robot. So what is the process you go about for designing that robot? And do you iterate? Here's some key things. These are two really important pages. It takes some time. It's well worth your time taking a look at. Um, so that's that. This is set up for a team. There are 12 sessions in here. Now, this is a beginning team. This kind of gives you a framework of what you need to accomplish. One of the great things in here is that there are project sparks, which are kind of are questions that can help students and team members just kind of get an idea of, okay, what are some questions I could ask that help me come up with a project to do? So this is a workbook for the students. Now, advanced teams will go well beyond the 12 sessions. This is set up for 12 two-hour sessions that will cover everything. It's a great framework for you, um, but will give you a basis of what to do with that. The next item you have is a team meeting guide. This is your kind of like a teacher's edition. This is the teacher's part of this. It includes what was in the other guide as well, but it includes some background information for the teachers. And here, what does your team need? This is what we just talked about. You need the Lego Spike Prime kit. You need an electronic device. It could be an iPad, a computer. It's really important these robots have to be autonomous. They can't be remote controlled. The challenge set, that's what the box looks like and it comes in. And then you have the mat and table. The mat actually comes in the challenge set, and you have a table. That's what you need to get started right there. Here's the sessions we talked about at a glance and how that works, and just some different tips and ideas. Here, once again, are the 4 different areas that you'll be evaluated on. That's very important. It's not just one thing, it's more than robots. And what we love about FIRST is that it gives so much more skills and ideas and things that the kids learn that's much more than just the technical skills, but it has a lot of teamwork and that kind of stuff. So here again, this is a glimpse of the student book with notes and information for you as a team leader. So it goes on down through all of that. So just some different session planning, well worth it. Now this last year's guide. And so this next year will be updated. There will be some changes to it coming up as it goes through. So we're going to come back to this page and talk about judging a little bit. This here is the Robot Game Rulebook. This is the 3rd book that you'll get with it. And this then talks about the actual game itself and what the rules are, what you need to get started. And here's what the missions are. So here's the mission, and this says there's description of it. And then here is the condition that needs to be met in order for points to be made. If you do that, then you get 20 points. And here's the conditions for that. And this has some very important information as blue. This information up here is just kind of background, kind of cool information, but this is the information that matters as it goes through. So the different missions that on the board and what needs to be accomplished. There's no right answer to this. There's not a right answer or wrong answer. Each team will have their choices of how they choose to approach these challenges. And then there's rules. What kind of equipment you need to have? Well, you need to have a Spike Prime. You need to have a robot. There's a limit on the number of motors you can have, that kind of thing. Now, one thing I'll mention here is does talk here about the Spike Essentials. And while you can use Spike Essential motors, you can't use a Spike Essentials hub because it can't be autonomous. They can plug into this one. Just kind of a side note there. Spike Essentials is a younger student's robot set. That's for what's used in the grades 2 through 4, but the Spike Prime is the main one. So in here, before the match starts, what this talks about is there is a launch area. So there's 2 quarter circle launch areas. The robot has to start completely in it, and then it can go out and be autonomous. You have 2.5 minutes to do as much time as you want in that mission set, in that match. There are 3 matches in a that you have. You'll have a practice match at the competition, which doesn't count, and then you'll have three competition matches. You get the best score out of the three. So it's not accumulated. It's not one does better than the other. It's just whatever the best one of those three would be. So this is the quarter circle the robot can start in. It goes out, runs autonomously, and accomplishes missions there. And there's a few nuances we'll learn and talk about later on with that. And these are basically the rules. Here again, this is the challenge set we talked about. It comes in the box. There's the mat, all the different mission models. They don't come put together though. They come with the instructions, and that's what you get to start with your kids, is putting them all together and figuring out how they work and following the directions on getting them started there. So here again, here's your field setup, how all that works, and then each of the missions and pictures and exactly what they should look like as they get started and what their starting positions are. So everything's very well thought out, very well detailed. Here's the score sheet, sample score sheet. You can find these online. You can print out as well. And there's also some electronic score sheets you can use online as you're practicing to kind of know, okay, what are the different missions and what are they doing there? This circle is very important. Identify, design, create, iterate, communicate. You will see that over and over again, and understanding that it's a simplified iterative design process, and having your kids understand that is super important with that. So those are the three books that you'll have as you go through it. So, and the different pieces you have as we get started. So I'm going to go ahead and pause here just a little bit. If you want to unmute, if you have any questions, feel free to unmute and ask any questions you have. All right. There aren't any questions, we will go ahead and continue with this. So before we go any farther, Nicole is with us here. And Nicole, if you were a starting coach just getting into this, and you've seen this is what you know about it, these are the materials, what would be one or two things that you would suggest that are important to beginning coaches?
Okay, want to just make sure you can hear me. Can you hear me clearly?
Yes, we can.
Okay, I can't see you. I think my connection's a little bad, but since you can hear me, we'll go. If those what Mel has shown, if that's what you know, and you are just ready to begin, um, I think one of the major things that I would say is start charting out your time. Once you have all your materials, as Mel mentioned, the pieces that come for each year's competition set, those don't come assembled. So you have to assemble those with your team. Pay attention to those core values because those are important from the very beginning, helping your um, teammates understand that those are not just things that you practice the day or the week before an event, but these are items that should be interwoven into every day that you guys get together and you meet. So from the very beginning, that's one of the main things that I would say is time management and paying attention to those core values, because even in putting together that year's set, you can find many ways to exercise those core values. So that's one of the primary things that I would say right off the bat.
Okay, managing your time and understanding what the core values are and starting integrating those. And you can make those fun with it.
Fun,
All
fun
right.
is fun is one of them.
Yep, definitely. So as you're getting started, you mentioned time. So what is the timeline on this? That's a great question. So today, actually, you can register your team for next season. Registration is actually open. They said it was going to be open on the 15th tomorrow, and I just checked and it's open. So, so all that's ready to go. And I'll just show you that. You can register your team. What will happen then is over the summer, you'll get your materials, and the actual game launches on this year. I believe it's August 6th is when the game launches. Let me just double check my calendar. Yeah, I think it's August 6th. is when all the information is released. So you'll get your challenge set ahead of time, maybe not a lot ahead of time, but you'll get all the materials, and then you'll actually get the rules and all that kind of thing will get released. And there's this website, firstlegoleague.org, and if you select season, this has all last year's information on it, and all of this will get released at noon on that day is when all the information comes out. This will all update to the next season, and this season is about water. So it's going to be underwater season. So it'll be kind of fun to have with that, but that's the website where all that information is. So how do you register a team? Well, you go to adventistrobotics.net, and on here you select mouse over registration, and here is the team registration. This will take you to the first website. Actually, before it does that, though, it has kind of an intermediate page here. The key to this page is this one right here, and that is that when you register your team, you want to change it from your geographic region. There'll be a section for region, and when you put in your zip code right up here, it'll give you that region, and you want to change that to Adventist Robotics League. Because if you don't change it to Adventist Robotics, then I don't know that you exist, and won't have information to communicate with you. So if you're not hearing anything from me after a little bit, then you want to send me an email and say, hey, Mel, why aren't I hearing anything? And we will get it all figured out and help you get that set. So that is there. Here's the link to register. So you will come here, you will create an account, and I'm going to actually log in here because I have an account created already. There are a couple things that you will note in that account when you do that. So it's having me update information. This is brand new. Let me go to my dashboard. And so you will have this when you first sign up, where you have to do your terms and agreement, and you say, okay, I agree. Basically, I have to be nice to kids. And youth protection program, another way of saying I have to be nice to kids, and I agree to go through some screening. It's the same screening we use as Sterling volunteers. So you can connect that if you've been screened with your church. And all right, I'm going to do that. Yes, here's the first policies. I'm going to go ahead and agree there. There's actually several things you have to agree to as it comes through, and then you're all set to go here. So on here, there's several tabs across the top. My Teams is where you want to be. You are not a class pack. Even if you're in a school, generally, you're not going to do a class pack for this. Class packs come in sets for 24 kids. So that's more of a teaching only tool in classroom, not competition teams. So here you're going to create a new team, and this will walk you through. You will set yourself up as a lead coach, a mentor. The administrator role would only be for somebody who pays the bills but does not involved in the team itself. So, so you would sign up as a coach. And here, is this going to be First LEGO League or First Tech Challenge? There's something also called First Robotics Competition that we don't do. In this case, it's going to be First LEGO League. All right, this is submerged. So the division is going to be First LEGO League Challenge is the division that we're doing. So I'm going to do this, and I can put a team name. You can come back and change this name. And I'm going to say what country I'm in. I'm in the United States, and I'm going to do 32714 I'll put in. And you'll notice when I hit tab, it puts in the city and state for me, and it also put this in as region of Central Florida. So whatever region you have, depending on the zip code, will automatically fill that in. I click on this, and I can change this to Adventist Robotics. It's like, hey, be careful, you're changing a region. Yep, that's okay. That's what I want to do. The rest of this is great. You can fill it out. If you're sales tax exempt, you definitely want to say this. And then you'll need to upload your tax exempt and give them a day or two to get that processed before you actually fill out your information. So that's really the critical thing. And then you'll have before you actually pay for it. Sorry, make sure you upload it, and then you can come back and pay for it. So I'm going to go ahead and fill out some information here. Let me go. Well, I'm just going to put in an address here and save and continue. Okay, so oh, I guess I didn't like that. is it doing here? Okay. Change that back. United States 32714. Let that fill in. All right, I'm going to save and continue here. Fairly simple to do. You can say if you're a school organization or family community, you do not have to be associated with the school. You can be a homeschool. You can be anything there. And I just got an email saying I'm just going to say family and community for right now to keep it simple. I can invite another coach, or I can just save and continue. If you have to have two coaches that are screened through the youth protection program. So it's really important to think through and decide who that's going to be and not forget to do that later on and get that taken care of early on. It will save you a lot of frustration later. So, okay, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm not a robot. Yes, save and continue. Okay, now I can order my product. And this is where I can say, all right, I want my challenge set. That's what I want as one of those. And I'm going to go ahead and add that to my cart. And I want a Spike Prime set, and it comes with the expansion set. I want to order that. I don't need extra engineering notebooks. I'm okay with that. And so I have those two in my cart. Now I can go and make that payment. Now you can do everything up to here if you're tax exempt, but this is where if you were tax exempt and selected that, you would stop. You'd have a button here, and I think I forgot to check that. You'd have a button to be able to upload this and put it in there. And let's see. Yep. So that should get you going. And then when you're done, you can check out, select all your items, select and pay and check out, and you're good to go. So that's how you do that. I am actually not going to pay because I'm not going to do this. I'm going to go back to my dashboard. And now you will see I have a team here. And there's my very special team. And I have everything here. What you don't want to have is anything that's red. So it looks like I missed an acknowledgement form. You want to get through everything and make sure there's nothing red, no outstanding tasks. And most of this has to do with my shopping cart. And that's super important as you go through. But that's that way. As long as you're in there, then you'll go on my list and I'll be able to contact you and get you updates for that. So that's how you sign up a team. It's a little, several steps involved, a few things to check off, but it's not too difficult to do. And you can get that going for you. All right, any questions at this point?
Hello, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Hi, my name is Joseph. I'm from St. Lucie Academy in Nova Scotia.
Oh,
I do have an
nice.
account with First. So would you mind showing me again how can I register for the Adventist competition?
Yeah, so the key really is for the Adventist is that when you create your team, there's a team profile. One of the first pages you're going to have is this team profile in here, and you just want to change this region to Adventist Robotics League.
So if I have a returning team, that would not work, I guess.
Yeah, no, it will work. Just like I did, you can come here and edit this and just change the region.
Information profile. Okay.
Yep. Just
Region.
edit that
Okay,
region.
gotcha.
Yep. And then
Gotcha.
save it, and then you show up on my list. So I actually we had a team in the area here that I didn't know about. And the Wednesday before the competition, I get this phone call saying, "Hey, how do I register for the competition?" I'm like, "Oh my." And we made it all work, but had we known earlier, we could have communicated with them and helped, just they had a good time and everything worked out just fine. But that's really, we like to be able to communicate and that kind of things with you. So.
Okay.
Definitely.
Perfect.
Yeah, great question.
Follow-up question would be, what is the closest competition here because we're in the Northeast, right?
You're in you say Nova Scotia?
Yeah. Maine is our closest state.
Maine is the closest state, yeah. So probably for you, unfortunately, the closest one is going to be the Baltimore, DC area. We have been in discussions of having one in Massachusetts. at South Lancaster Academy. So far, that hasn't materialized. We'll have to see. We're very interested in that, and we'd be cool to have one in Canada. So, but again, it takes somebody. Essentially, it takes an a local organization. Sometimes it's a school, a conference, somebody that's willing to step up to the plate and say, "Hey, I'm going to run this tournament because I can come and help you guys with the tournament, but I can't set everything up in the volunteers." Our championship tournament, we had 30 teams there. And this is a bigger tournament, and there's smaller ones, but we probably had 60 or 70 volunteers that day, helping make it all happen. Now, smaller tournaments might be 20, 30 volunteers, but it takes a group of volunteers just to make it run smoothly. And we have all the information to help make that happen. So it's not like we're figuring it out. There's a manual and all that for it.
Yeah. We're quite far away from any school. The closest is in Montreal, which it's actually closer for us just to go to Maine for music clinics and stuff than to go to another Canadian school.
I'm sure.
But the issue that we had in the past was the calendar would not work for us. Some of the competitions in the region would fall on Sabbath, and that's just a no-go.
Correct.
So we've been doing mostly RoboFest through Lawrence Technology University. They have a partnership with KJ University here, and that's been our outlets. But it would be cool for the kids to go. So we actually qualified to go to the world competition.
Oh, nice!
And the final is on a Saturday. So. Well, and they could not accommodate us, so that's why we're looking to explore.
Right, and that's the reason we started Adventist Robotics, and was that we realized that, we also do a delayed season, so that it works better for schools. If schools want to do it, doesn't have to be a school, but it does work better in schools. So our championship is after Worlds, the first World Championship. It's our World Championship, but and we have special permission to do a delayed season that way with it. So, but my goal is to have kids involved, and yes, there are a lot of areas where the only competitions are on Saturdays, and so we want kids to be able to have this opportunity, and it's a great opportunity for them. So now, that being said, when we look at the calendar, now clearly transportation is an issue, but you can go to any one of these tournaments too. So we don't say, oh, you have to go to the closest one. We had a team from, I don't know, it was Texas or Louisiana or somewhere, go to the one in North Carolina once. So there's no restriction on our side. We have them in different parts of the country to make it easy for make it as close as we can, but we're also figuring out how do we manage growth and have more tournaments, so and get them closer.
Yeah, Florida might be something to motivate parents.
Absolutely, yeah. And you would be more than welcome. So
yeah. I don't mean to take over all the questions, but I do have in terms of how this runs at schools, because one of the challenges that we found here was this started with volunteers before I even moved to the Sand Lake Academy, and then went to another teacher, and then it ended up on my lap. I'm a music teacher, and I include this a little bit on one of the tech classes that I have to teach. First, but for this competition, first level league, I don't have enough time in class. So my question is, what is your experience? How those schools run this when they struggle finding volunteers to run the program after school?
Yeah. So Nicole, do you want to jump in on this a little bit, and then I'll follow up?
Sure.
So Nicole is one of our coaches. She's coached at both FLL and First Tech Challenge, so she's got a little bit of experience in that. Well, not a little bit. She's got some good experience in that area, and then I'll share a little bit as well.
Okay, so your primary question is, if you do not have enough time during the school day to fit it in, but your challenge is volunteers after school. Do I have that correct?
Yeah, so it's I would say twofold, right? One,
yes.
if you have the experience of running this at school and it's included in the program, how is it done? So I can, show value to my admin or to my school board.
Ah.
Hey, we should pursue this path so we can expand our STEM education at school. And because we're talking about an age group that ends up at grade 8 or grade 9, and there's limited schedule on these grades to have more time allocated to these programs. I could have more time easily allocated at grade 10, 11, and 12 because just
Yes.
because of the way that the courses are organized, right? So that would
Yes.
be one. The other thing is, especially we are no longer a majority Seventh-day Adventist school. There's like 60% non-Adventist with both parents working. So our pool of volunteer parents is very much reduced in their time and their availability to come for 90 minutes every week, which is the bare minimum that you can use for make this successful, right? Anything less than that, I just found it too challenging when I did it. So how do you overcome these two challenges?
Okay, so I'll start with your school and admin school board side, right? When I started, we started this just as an introduction after school, primarily run by parent volunteers. One of the things that I found in discussing this and helping my administration and other teachers and school board to find value, I really hammer hard on just the exposure and the experience that the program affords the students when they participate. One of the biggest challenges we have as teachers is having our students make real world connections with what they are learning and how that translates when they're outside of the classroom. So I would approach it from the side of the innovation project, for example. Every year there is a different theme focused heavily on problem solving, doing research, outreach, and communication. So these are all aspects that have value added that translate in the classroom. And so, especially if your school board is made up of any industry professionals or not just church members who are retired, then they will latch on to that and they will start finding value in that, in students having the ability to explore something that helps them make real world connections, having students be able to go out into the community and network, do research, present their ideas. So that's the aspect that I would focus on in terms of discussions with admin and school board members. Is just helping them to understand the 21st century skills that students have an opportunity to be exposed to through fun at the same time. And it also helps the students have buy-in. It also really brings the parents in because as you mentioned, majority of your parents are both parents are working. So with a new theme every year, this opens up opportunities for more discussions with parents because you don't know who parent A or parent B works with or has connections with, that those students can by extension latch on to for their project. So it does open that up a little bit more outside of the classroom, and it all dovetails back into the classroom and how they approach math, how they approach science, how they approach their language arts classes, because now they are using other parts of their brain or thinking deeper as they do their research and as they come up with their projects for presentation and so on.
So if I can, I'll just jump in a little bit here too.
Okay.
One of the things that I did, I like to do when I introduced it at the beginning of the year. Hey, this is what this is all about. Is I would have an information meeting in the evening, and even for my high school students, and probably even more so for the high school students. And it'd be for the kids, so it wouldn't be necessarily during the time we would meet, but it'd be an evening time. And the one requirement was, in order for the kid to come, they had to bring a parent. And so when they brought a parent, and once I had these like three men were standing in the corner, and they're talking and whispering to each other and talking and whispering, and you know, they ended up being some of my best supporters. And people end up finding time. It is always challenging when you have predominantly, two income households, when it's not there. But maybe they'd be willing to do something in the evening. Sometimes transportation is a bit of a challenge. Um, but with what Nicole said, of certainly, when you're talking about it to them, saying, hey, here's the value of it. But just being involved with their kids, and is it curricular or is it extracurricular? Those are choices schools have to make. We have schools that make it is a rite of passage in the school. We have a small school in Ohio, which, I mean, it's a rite of passage when those kids, I think it may only be a two-teacher school. And those kids, when they are on the younger grades, that is their thing, to be on the Lego team, and they're all in on it. And I mean, it has become a culture thing year after year. And I think they've been doing it it might even be 10 or 15 years at that school. And they represent very well every year with what they do. So it is somewhat, how do you make it part of your culture? At the same time, you could also have it just be as a class. Now we do it as a class, and then we have some schools that do it K-12, or sorry, K-8, all of it. Every student does it as part of their curriculum. And yes, it is a kind of surface, yeah, because kids have to want it to do really well at it. They have to desire it. Some of that you have to create that desire in them, but they also have to want it. And if they don't want it, it's not quite as good. And then the kids who really want it get frustrated with the kids that just don't really care that much. But it can be as a class. So we have kids that do it, a school that do it K-8 as a school. And then out of that, then they have competition teams that they grow. So they do it kind of as a curricular for that. So those are a few ideas. Hopefully that helps just a little bit. There's not an easy answer always to that, but just see what your community is. Find those parents. We had the kids do children's stories at churches, and when we did that, we found we had our kids, when we had our high school team, they did a children's story with their robot in one of our big churches in the area. And lo and behold, unknown to me, there was a rocket scientist, retired rocket scientist in the congregation that came up to me afterwards. Hey, I want to help. And he was an engineer that worked on the Saturn V rockets. So and ended up being worked for Aerojet, and was retired. And so you might find people that you don't know. And again, reach out to your community. Are there people in your community? If these kids share what they do, maybe at a booth, a little booth outside of your grocery store. I don't know if they do anything like that in your area, but some way where they can show off what they do to the community. You might find people in the community that say, hey, I'd be willing to help with this. If there's First Tech Challenge teams in your area, see if they would be willing to help with your kids sometimes they like to help mentor younger teams depending on what they are. So just some different ideas. Hopefully that helps. All right, so let me just share a little bit more here, and then Nicole, I'm going to come back to you at the end, for just some tips for getting started. What are some important things? We talked a little bit with that, but from your perspective, there. So let me show you this. So these are the rubrics, and I will say, I'm going to say this with a caveat, and that is next year these rubrics are changing. So they will be different, but the concept is the same. And so actually, let me come back to here. So on the tournament day, you go before judges. And this is sort of what the judging session looks like. This was adjusted just a little bit for this next year. Again, there's been some little tweaks to it, but generally it's the same. You go before the judges, you present your innovation project. They have 5-minute presentation. Then the judges get to ask some questions about it for 5 minutes. Then you explain your robot design and how you did that. And then they get to ask questions about it. And then the core values is kind of intermixed all with that, but they get feedback from the judges. And so it's kind of a discussion. It's a 30-minute session with that. And it's all based on the rubrics. And I'm going to talk about the innovation project rubric. And I'm not going to talk a lot about the core values rubric. When you get your rubrics, you might understand that a little bit more for this next season, because I've seen the new ones coming out, but I can't share them at this point. So, but with this innovation challenge rubric, here is what they're going to be evaluated on. So remember that circle we talked about before? Let's see if we can go back to that circle. Where was that? Well, I thought I had the circle. Let me see. I think it's in the back of this. Nope, not in the back of that one. Engineering notebook. Is it on the back of the engineering notebook? This engineering and design process, you'll see it several places. But this process here, identify, design, create, iterate, communicate. Well, if you come here to your rubrics, identify, design, create, iterate, communicate. Huh. Wow, isn't that cool? What an observation. Come to robot design, guess what we have? Identify, design, create, iterate, communicate. The key to this is that the process, they're being evaluated more on the process than they are on the product. Having a good product is great, but did you follow this process? Are you really getting into what the design thinking process is, an iterative design? And if you go through this rubric and the materials, it leads you through. But having that understanding that, oh, this is really about the process. And when I go before the judges and I'm working on all this, I'm thinking about what my process is, and that's what I need to communicate to the judges, not just what the robot is. So that's the big key takeaway. How I will say how core values is done next year will be slightly different. You'll have to look at that, but the biggest thing is to focus on these rubrics and make sure you have these different areas there. And then how do you define what exceeds? How do you know? I don't want to just be accomplished, but I want to go above and beyond what accomplished is. So that's kind of a key thing as you're working through it. So I would say that's one of the bigger takeaways that will help you be successful even as a rookie team. In fact, our championship team at our tournament this year was a rookie team. So the top team was actually a rookie team. So never underestimate a rookie team. They can do quite well with that. So just wanted to touch base on that, on those two things. The judging flow chart, this again will be updated slightly, but it's generally the same. And then the rubrics, and those are all available. And when you look at the rubrics, if you come to, let me just go back to one other place here. We looked at the firstlegoleague.org page, and when you come down on this page, there's a lot of information here. There's teaser videos, things related to it. You have a copy of the engineering notebook, the team meeting guide. They're all available on here. Rubric. There is one thing here, the challenge updates. I should talk about this as well. And that is that if there's any updates, so these are updates to the rule. So these override any rule. So these are kind of updates that are given throughout the season to the rules, clarifications. If there's a clarification made, it's posted, and you can check what those are. But then here under challenge judging, if you click on this, here's where all your rubrics are, your judging session flow chart, the awards that are available to you, all of that information is available right here for you. So this is kind of your information hub for all things First Lego League throughout the season. So this will get updated when the challenge is released. So all the new information will be there. And I can just show you, let me show you also quickly. Here's the robot game score calculator. So if you come here, this is what the referees will typically use. And so you can say, okay, this is the condition of the field, and you select it, and then you hit calculate, which it won't do right now because it's actually not all filled out. If I can get some, I'll be able to get some score in there. Well, it's not all filled out, so it won't actually calculate right now, but you can then calculate what your score will be based on that. So, all right. Any other, actually, Nicole, what are some tips that you would share with them getting started for a team? You know, you've shared a couple things already. Go ahead.
Um, so I already talked about time management, very important. Uh, Once you have your materials and it's decided, okay, we're going to have a team. I'd say one of the next big things are um, roles for the kids that are involved. um, it can at times be challenging, especially if you are a rookie team, with figuring out how you're going to manage the time that you have the kids, how you're going to accomplish all of the pieces that need to get accomplished. But I would say start out by deciding on roles. And in the engineering notebook, there are some tips to do that. This just helps keep all the kids on task. And this is a great way, identifying roles is a great way of beginning to exercise the core values, because having the students read through what the roles are and then having them vote, that's one thing that I did a lot with my teams. How do we get everybody involved? How do we ensure that we're including everyone? Nobody's voice is insignificant. So we vote to see, okay, yes, I agree. No, I disagree. We discuss it and then we move from there. So I'd say identifying the roles early and then being able to have everyone be on task at the meetings is a good way, is a good tip for being successful. Um, One other thing I want to talk about is the innovation project. While the robot game is the exciting part of um, competing, the innovation project is significant. And you never want to get to 2 weeks before a tournament and realize, uh-oh, we haven't done enough or we haven't even started. So I'd say divide and conquer. Spend some time each week going over what we want to get accomplished, where we are with the project, just so that you don't come down to the wire and realize we have not communicated anything to the community or to anyone about what our solution to the problem is. So those are just two quick things that I think help to be very successful as you prepare.
All right, very good. Thank you. And throughout the season, we will have, once you register your team, we do have, we'll have coach conference calls, usually about once a month, starting in September. We'll run them. Calls similar to this, where we come on and give you tips throughout the season, answer questions, coaches ask questions. We've had some great discussions that have been really helpful to teams throughout that. So we do support you throughout the season. But we put those out. The first couple we may put out to all teams, anybody on our email list. But once we get into the season, we don't want to be spamming people with information that they don't need. So we then send out the invites only to teams that are registered with Adventist Robotics, in first with Adventist Robotics. So there is a fee to actually attend the tournament as well. I probably should mention that as well. I didn't do that. But there is an additional fee. So when you sign up for a tournament, you pay an additional fee then for the tournament itself that helps cover some of the costs of the materials that are there for the tournament. So but we do have those conference calls throughout to answer questions, and like I say, they've been great questions, and I appreciate the ones that are here, because those are questions that coaches have all the time. So very common questions. So any other questions?
Mel, can I add something really quickly?
You can, yes.
So you talked about just the different costs associated, and Mel did also mention just being vocal in your community, whatever avenues. Never underestimate the audience, because we have no idea who knows whom, or who would be willing to support a team. I know fundraising becomes sort of a big thing, especially if you are in a small school or you're just starting. So don't be afraid to just have the kids share their ideas, and you'd be surprised at sometimes who is willing to either sponsor one child or sponsor T-shirts or sponsor for travel, or even different organizations in your community. When I started out coaching, I reached out to some doctors' offices who sponsored pizza for the kids and just different things to help make the year fun and exciting for the kids.
So, Chris, I see your hand. I also see Ashley asked in the chat here, what is a deadline for registering a team? I'm a new teacher for the coming 24-25 school year in a very small school with only 3 days left in this school year. Yeah, you don't have to register right now. You can, and a few teams do. Most teams register in the fall, I will say that. We had some very late registrations, so we have a certain number of teams that are allocated to us. We haven't run out of them yet. I would not procrastinate. But I also, you don't have to worry about registering right now. You can register, I would say October would probably be the latest that I would recommend registering just to be on the safe side with that, but you have plenty of time to do that. If you have questions, reach out to me and I'm more than glad to help with that process. So that's kind of gives you an idea. There's, yeah, if you're ready to go and you register, the cool thing about registering now, if you can do it in the spring and it's not a necessity, you can it opens up today. I think it was the first day it was open. You can register. If you register in the spring, then you can have all your materials ready for you when you start school and everything can be there. But is that a requirement? No. We have a delayed season, so we have plenty of time to get that done. But again, don't procrastinate because that works against you. So, Chris.
So my question, Mel, is simply this, that if I register my team today, but I don't have all the team participants, but I have the team, how soon can I get the materials?
Yeah. So if you register today, they will ship out over the summer. They usually ship late July, is when they are shipped, so that they arrive about the time the challenge is released, which is August 5 or 6. So you will get them over the summer if you register now. Now, that's a great question though. Oh, but I don't know who's going to be on the team. That's fine. The people that are on your team can change right up to the day before the tournament. And sometimes that actually happens. So you don't have to worry about rosters. There is a roster process we'll talk about later on where you actually have to have all your kids on a roster and all that, but that just has to be presented at the tournament. So who all's on your team, because you don't know for sure who it is, you don't have to worry about that. And sometimes teams will say, all right, I'm not sure if I'm going to have one or two teams at my school, so I'm going to register one. I'm going to get all my materials, and then I can register another team later on. And teams will do that. Another thing with the challenge set is that let's say you have two teams at your school, you don't have to have two challenge sets. Partly because, that's a 4x8 table sitting in your room or wherever you are. It takes up space, but they can share that field and work together on one field. So once you buy one, if you add another team, you don't have to buy another challenge set to go with it. You can just have the one and share the one.
I may have missed this at the beginning. The innovation project, when do we get the details on that?
So August at the game release, you will get that notebook that we shared with you, and in that notebook, that's where that mission is. So let me just share my screen again, just to show you where it is in that notebook. So this is the engineering notebook here that we have, and this is one of the 3 books that you'll get. You'll get the engineering notebook, you'll get the team meeting guide, and the robot game rule book. These are printed notebooks that come with your challenge set, or they'll come very shortly after you get your actual. It's part of the challenge set that you get. And in here, this innovation project right here is the statement for what the mission is. It's fairly broad. This year was how do you use technology and the arts to engage others. Every year it's based on the theme. So this next year is going to be about underwater. So the theme is going to be around underwater. So some teams have actually in the spring, as soon as the theme is released, they'll have experts come into their school and talk to them, or maybe they'll plan a field trip. Of course, we're so close to the end of the school year, that's not going to happen now, but it usually gets released, what the theme is in general is released in April, end of April. So actually the second or third week of April, mid-April. So they'll sometimes have maybe a guest speaker come in. Maybe it's too late to organize a field trip, but sometimes it just depends on the resources you have, or doing something online and starting to explore and get ideas flowing. So we know it's going to be about underwater. We know what the theme is. We just don't know the exact statement that will be there. But generally, it's fairly broad, and you can kind of, when you look at the teaser video, which we'll show here in just a minute, you'll get kind of an idea on what that is.
So,
We just add, oh, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
well, I've only done this a little bit,
Mhm.
but what I'm starting to understand is that the theme is underwater, that we
Yep.
should find a problem, and to that problem, we should find an engineering solution.
Correct. Identify a problem, design a solution, and share that solution. That's the key parts of it. And of course, with the design model that we were looking at here, it's really about iteration as well. So identify a problem, design a solution, create that solution, iterate, which means with that, iterate and communicate kind of go hand in hand. Take that and share it with find some experts in your area in that field, or maybe it's online and you share it with them. And what do you think it works? One of the things I learned about design is, let's say you're designing something for a handicapped person. Well, if you never give a prototype to a handicapped person to test it and you go to market, you have no idea. I'm not handicapped. I don't know if that's really going to help them out. So you give it to them. What do you like about it? What could you change? Oh, we could tweak this. All right, let's go back and let's adjust that. And then you do that adjustment. You go back with them. That's the whole iterative design process. And that's kind of the model that's here. So again, it's about that process more. The process is more important than the solution. And if you follow a good process, you're more likely to have a really good solution as well. So they kind of go hand in hand, but the process is really what you're being evaluated on in the judging, more so than the product. The product's important, but the process is more important. Nicole, you were going to share something?
Oh, yes, I was just, you sort of alluded to it, but I was just going to add that one of the things that I generally do with my team at the end of the year, because a lot of times we get that little teaser of what the next season is going to be. When we sort of have our little wrap-up meeting, even if I have team members who are graduating out of the program, we start jotting down ideas based on what we think it might be. And it's usually a fun way if somebody's on the fence, if a student is on the fence about whether or not they're going to do the program next year. It's a good way to draw them in and say, hey, as this year's theme is about water. As you spend your summer vacation, wherever you're going, start thinking about different ideas, or talk to your mom or dad, or if you go visit your uncle or your grandma or something like that. That way you start getting ideas early for your innovation project. And a lot of times out of that, we start creating a list of experts or people we can talk to, or that know other individuals that might be experts in the area. So I just wanted to add that, even though you may not know how many people you're going to have or who might be coming back, it's a good way to start getting interest even before the official season is open.
And speaking of which, next year is called Submerged, or Deep First Dive. The first LEGO League theme is Submerged, and here is the teaser video. This is on YouTube, so you can play this in your promotion with kids. Even this spring, you can do that. But here's a teaser video and see what you think about it as far as the project would be related. All right, there you go. And that's a great discussion to have with your kids. Okay, so what might the project be related to this? We know we have to identify a solution. What is this theme really about based on what you saw in that video? And I'm not going to say anything more. You get to figure that out. All right, any final questions? All right, we really appreciate you spending some time with us here this evening. This is recorded, so we'll post it on our YouTube channel for others. Really appreciate the questions. You guys have had some fantastic questions, and they are questions that a lot of people ask. So very, very good discussion. Thank you so much for joining us, and we wish you a restful summer, especially if you're a teacher, and may God bless you in your year. Thank you and have a good evening.